The massive Imperial scout ship emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. Its golden hull reflected the distant sunlight as it moved past Pluto's orbit. Inside the ship, Captain First Class Dex stared at the readings with his 4 eyes widening in surprise. "Impossible," he muttered, adjusting his sensors. "This system should be primitive." But the readings didn't lie. The entire solar system buzzed with activity. Defensive satellites formed an intricate web around every major planet and moon. Space stations dotted the asteroid belt, and Earth itself was surrounded by a complex network of orbital platforms. In the United Earth Defense Force headquarters beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral James Walker watched the alien ships approach on the main screen. He took a sip from his coffee mug, his weathered face showing no signs of surprise or concern. "They finally showed up," he said to his staff. "Right on schedule." His second-in-command, Colonel Roberts, raised an eyebrow. "You don't seem worried, sir." "Worried?" Walker chuckled. "We've been preparing for this day for the past 50 years, ever since we detected their long-range probes." The alien ship continued its approach, passing Jupiter's orbit. It made no attempt to hide itself or jam Earth's sensors. Their arrogance was clear in every move they made. "Sir," the communications officer called out. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies. It's a first contact package, followed by what appears to be an ultimatum." Walker nodded. "Put it on screen." The main display filled with the image of a tall, regal-looking alien. Its purple skin and elaborate uniform marked it as someone of high rank in their hierarchy. The alien spoke, its words automatically translated by Earth's AI systems. "I am Lord Rex, Supreme Commander of the Galactic Empire's 7th Expansion Fleet. Your world has been chosen to join our glorious empire. Submit now, and you will be granted the privilege of serving as a protectorate state. Resist and face extinction. You have 1 planetary rotation to respond." The message ended, leaving the command center in silence. Walker finished his coffee and set down the mug. "Send them our prepared response package." On the Imperial scout ship, Lord Rex watched the human response with growing confusion. Instead of panic or immediate submission, he received a calm, almost friendly message from a human called Ambassador Tom Miller. "Greetings, Lord Rex. We appreciate your offer and have prepared a comprehensive information package about humanity. We strongly suggest you review it before making any decisions, particularly the historical sections about our military conflicts. Consider this a friendly warning. You really don't want to fight us." Lord Rex laughed, his honor guards joining in. "These primitives think they can warn us. Us, the Galactic Empire that has conquered 1,000 worlds." But his laughter died as he watched the footage that followed. Cities reduced to ash by nuclear fire. Massive armies clashing across continents. Guerrilla fighters destroying superior forces through cunning and determination. Centuries of warfare, each generation more devastating than the last. "Their weapons are primitive," his military advisor said dismissively. "Chemical propellants, nuclear fission, basic particle weapons. Nothing compared to our plasma cannons and energy shields." Lord Rex nodded, but something about the humans' calm response bothered him. No species had ever reacted this way to an Imperial ultimatum. They usually either submitted immediately or responded with desperate threats. "Launch the standard conquest protocol," he ordered. "1 ship should be enough to demonstrate our power." As the scout ship moved closer to Earth, Admiral Walker received the expected alert. He pressed a button on his command chair, sending a pre-prepared message to all Earth forces. "They've chosen to ignore our warning," he announced. "Initiate Operation Ghost Protocol. Let's show them why they should have listened." In the depths of space, humanity's defense grid silently activated. Hidden weapons platforms powered up. Stealth ships slipped out of their concealed bases. And in underground bunkers across Earth, soldiers who had trained their entire lives for this moment prepared for war. The Galactic Empire was about to learn why humans had warned them to run. In the grand meeting chamber of the Imperial scout ship, Ambassador Tom Miller stood calmly before Lord Rex and his war council. The human's simple black suit contrasted sharply with the elaborate uniforms of the Empire's officers. "Before you make your final decision," Miller said, "we'd like to show you something else about humanity." He gestured, and the chamber's holographic displays came to life. The Empire's officers watched as scenes from Earth's history played out before them. This was World War I, Miller explained as trenches and battlefields appeared. Humans fought each other with such intensity that we turned entire countries into wastelands. Millions died, but we learned. We adapted. The scenes shifted to World War II. Tanks rolling across continents, ships battling across oceans, cities burning under aerial bombardment. "We got better at warfare," Miller continued. "More efficient, more deadly. When one side developed a new weapon, the other side found a way to counter it. When one side created an unbeatable defense, the other side found a way around it." Lord Rex watched with growing unease as the footage showed guerrilla fighters defeating larger, better-equipped armies. "Primitive tactics," he said dismissively. "They would never work in modern space combat." Miller smiled. That's what every superior force thought, until they lost. He pointed to new footage showing small groups of soldiers defeating massive armies. Vietnam, Afghanistan, a dozen other conflicts. The bigger army doesn't always win. Sometimes being clever is better than being strong. The Empire's military advisor, General Cram, stepped forward. "Our scanners show your most advanced weapons are barely at level 3 on the Galactic scale. Our smallest ships have level 7 weapons. This is not a fight you can win." "That's the interesting thing about humans," Miller replied. "We don't need to match your technology to beat it. We just need to understand it. And we've had 50 years to study your ships." He pressed a button, and new images appeared. Detailed scans of Imperial ships, analysis of their shield frequencies, weak points in their armor. Lord Rex's face darkened with anger. "How did you get these?" "Your long-range probes weren't as stealthy as you thought. We caught one. Studied it. Let it go without you ever knowing. We've been preparing for this day for a long time." The War Council erupted in angry shouts, but Miller remained calm. He raised his voice slightly to be heard over the noise. "We're showing you this as a courtesy, a warning. Because once we start fighting, we won't stop until we win. It's what humans do. We adapt. We overcome. And we've spent half a century figuring out how to beat you." General Cram laughed harshly. "You expect us to believe that primitives like you could defeat the Imperial fleet? We have conquered 1,000 worlds." "Yes," Miller said quietly. "And how many of those worlds had spent their entire history fighting themselves? How many had developed thousands of different ways to wage war? How many had turned warfare into a science?" He turned to leave, then paused at the door. "You have 6 hours left in your ultimatum. Use them wisely. Study our history. Look at how we fight. Then ask yourself, do you really want to be the first alien empire to find out why humans warn their enemies to run?" After Miller left, Lord Rex turned to his council. "These humans are bluffing. Their weapons are primitive. Their ships are weak. One Imperial cruiser could conquer their entire system." But in his private quarters later, he found himself watching the historical footage again. He saw the determination in the human soldiers' eyes, the cleverness of their tactics, the way they turned their enemy's strength against them. For the first time in his long career, Lord Rex felt a flicker of doubt, but he pushed it aside. He was an Imperial commander. He had conquered dozens of worlds. These humans would learn their place, just like all the others. He didn't realize that he had just made the biggest mistake in Imperial history. The Imperial cruiser dropped out of hyperspace with its weapons already charging. Its massive hull gleamed in the sunlight as it approached Earth's orbit. Lord Rex stood on the bridge, ready to demonstrate the Empire's power to these primitive humans. "Target their largest orbital station," he ordered. "Show them what real weapons can do." The cruiser's main cannon fired. a brilliant beam of plasma streaking toward Earth's orbital defense station. Lord Rex smiled, expecting to see the station explode into pieces. Instead, the beam passed right through it. "My lord," his sensor officer shouted. "It's a hologram. The station isn't real." Suddenly, alarms blared across the bridge. The ship's sensors detected movement everywhere. What they had thought were pieces of space debris began to move. Hundreds of small, dark objects that their scanners had dismissed as satellites or junk were powering up. In his command center, Admiral Walker watched the Imperial cruiser's confusion with grim satisfaction. "They fell for it," he said. "Begin Operation Ghost Protocol." The debris revealed itself as Earth's true defense fleet. But these weren't the big, obvious warships the Empire expected. Instead, they were small, stealthy craft covered in radar-absorbing materials. Each one was barely larger than a fighter, but carried a single, powerful weapon. "Impossible," Lord Rex muttered as his tactical display filled with enemy contacts. Their technology shouldn't allow this level of stealth. The human ships attacked from all directions at once, but they didn't use energy weapons or plasma beams. Instead, each fired a single tungsten rod, accelerated to near-light speed by electromagnetic rails. The Imperial cruiser's shields, designed to stop energy weapons, did nothing against these simple kinetic weapons. 20 tungsten rods punched through the ship's hull before they could even react. "Shields are useless," the defense officer screamed. "They're using primitive projectile weapons." Lord Rex grabbed his command console as his ship shuddered. "Launch fighters. Return fire." Imperial fighters poured out of the cruiser, their energy weapons blazing. But the human ships were already gone, vanishing back into the debris field around Earth. The fighters' sensors couldn't tell the difference between the human ships and the thousands of actual pieces of space junk. "My lord," his tactical officer reported, "we're detecting new contacts from the dark side of Earth's moon." Before Lord Rex could respond, a salvo of missiles emerged from hidden bases on the lunar surface. But these weren't ordinary missiles. Each one split into hundreds of smaller projectiles, creating a cloud of deadly metal moving at orbital speeds. "Evasive action," Lord Rex ordered, but it was too late. The cloud of projectiles shredded his fighter screen, overwhelming their shields through sheer kinetic force. In the Rocky Mountain Command Center, Admiral Walker watched the battle unfold. "Phase 2, he ordered. "Show them why we warned them about human ingenuity." Across the solar system, hidden weapons platforms activated. Asteroids that had been hollowed out and fitted with engines began to move. Solar-powered lasers, disguised as communication satellites, powered up. Every piece of space junk, every innocent-looking satellite, suddenly became a potential threat. The Imperial cruiser tried to retreat, but found itself surrounded. Every direction it turned, it faced a different kind of weapon. Simple but deadly kinetic rounds, swarms of tiny drones, guided asteroids, even its own destroyed fighters, now drifting on calculated courses to cause maximum damage. "This is impossible," Lord Rex said as another volley of impacts rocked his ship. "They're primitives. They shouldn't be able to do this." His communications officer looked up from his console, fear in his eyes. "My lord, we're receiving a message from the humans." On the main screen, Admiral Walker's face appeared. He looked almost sympathetic. "We warned you to run," he said simply. "This is just the beginning. You haven't even seen what we can really do yet." The screen went dark, leaving Lord Rex to watch helplessly as another wave of human ships emerged from hiding. He finally understood their warning, but it was far too late. 3 days after the first battle, the Empire's main fleet arrived in the solar system. 50 massive warships dropped out of hyperspace, their weapons ready. The humans' tricks wouldn't work against such a large force. Fleet Commander Max watched from the bridge of her stealth ship, hidden in the rings of Saturn. "Right on time," she said to her crew. "They never learn. Begin Operation Solar Storm." Near the sun, hidden behind massive solar shields, Captain Mary Reed's squadron waited, Her ships looked nothing like normal warships. They were basically giant mirrors, designed for one specific purpose. All ships deploy solar sails. Reed ordered. Prepare to redirect solar energy on my mark. The Empire's fleet moved forward confidently, spreading out to surround Earth. Their sensors showed no sign of the human ships that had destroyed Lord Rex's cruiser. The fleet admiral smiled, thinking the humans were hiding. He was right, but not in the way he expected. Now, Reed commanded. Her ship's solar sails adjusted, catching the sun's energy and focusing it like giant magnifying glasses. Concentrated beams of solar energy suddenly struck the Imperial ships from behind. The Empire's shields, designed to block weapons fire, couldn't handle the pure heat and radiation. Ship after ship reported shield failures on their sun-facing sides. But this was just the beginning. Phase 2, Max ordered from Saturn. Hundreds of small objects detached from her ships, looking like chunks of ice from Saturn's rings. Each one contained a simple but deadly payload: water. The objects shot toward the Imperial fleet, powered by small chemical rockets. The Empire's sensors ignored them, registering them as harmless ice fragments. But as they passed through the focused sunlight from Reed's ships, the ice turned to superheated steam. Clouds of scalding vapor enveloped the Imperial ships just as their sun-side shields failed. The steam found every crack, every maintenance hatch, every weapon port. Ships began to lose power as their crews frantically tried to deal with the invasion of superheated water. How? The Imperial Admiral demanded. How are they beating our technology with steam and sunlight? His answer came in the form of another attack. This time, from Earth itself, powerful ground-based lasers, hidden in mountain peaks and desert valleys, opened fire. Each beam was too weak to damage an Imperial ship alone. But there were thousands of them, all firing at once, all targeting the same points. The combined power overwhelmed the weakened shields. Imperial ships began to fall back, trying to regroup, but they had nowhere safe to go. From the asteroid belt, mining ships appeared, using their industrial equipment as weapons. Electromagnetic harpoons, designed to catch asteroids, latched onto Imperial vessels and dragged them off course. Mining lasers, meant to cut rock, sliced through damaged hull plates. "Sir," Max's tactical officer reported, "the Empire is regrouping near Mars, just as planned." Max nodded. This was the moment they had waited for. "Signal Earth Command. Tell them we're ready for the main event." In the Rocky Mountain Command Center, Admiral Walker received the message. "Begin Operation Trojan," he ordered. Suddenly, the Empire's own communication systems turned against them. Their tactical networks filled with false data. Navigation systems showed incorrect positions. Ships started firing at sensor ghosts and holographic decoys. "They've hacked our network," an Imperial officer shouted. "But how? Their technology is primitive." What the Empire didn't know was that humans had spent decades studying their communication protocols. Every probe they sent, every transmission they made, had been analyzed and decoded. Now that knowledge was being used against them. The Imperial fleet, mighty enough to conquer whole star systems, found itself fighting blind. Their advanced technology, instead of being an advantage, had become a weakness that the humans exploited. "Send the message again," Walker ordered. "Maybe this time they'll listen." Across every Imperial communication channel, in simple, clear text, appeared the same warning they had ignored before. "We told you to run. Last chance. Retreat now, or see what else humans can do with primitive technology." The Imperial Admiral stared at the message, his pride battling with his growing fear. He was starting to understand why no empire had ever fought humans before. The Imperial Fleet Admiral had enough of human tricks. After watching a third of his ships become disabled by primitive tactics, he decided to use the Empire's most deadly weapon, biological warfare. "Release the virus containers," he commanded. "Let's see how clever they are against an enemy they can't see." Thousands of capsules launched from the Imperial ships, each containing engineered viruses designed to target human DNA. The Empire had used this weapon to subdue dozens of worlds. No civilization had ever survived it. But as the capsules approached Earth's atmosphere, Admiral Walker smiled. "They finally did it," he said to his staff. "Initiate Operation Pandora." Suddenly, the capsules found themselves caught in invisible nets of electromagnetic fields. Earth's atmosphere lit up with aurora-like lights as hidden defense systems activated. The capsules stopped mid-flight, held in place by technology the Empire didn't know humans possessed. "Impossible," the Imperial Admiral shouted. "Their technological level shouldn't allow this." "Sir," his science officer reported with growing panic, "the humans aren't just stopping the capsules. They're reprogramming the viruses." In secret labs beneath the Rocky Mountains, human scientists had spent decades preparing for this moment. They had studied every biological weapon the Empire had ever used, thanks to samples collected from their probes. Now, they were ready. The capsules began to glow as their contents were altered at the molecular level. Then they started moving again, back toward the Imperial fleet. "Full retreat," the Imperial Admiral ordered, but it was too late. The modified viruses, now harmless to humans but deadly to Imperial biology, spread through his ship's air filtration systems. Within hours, Imperial crews began falling ill. The virus didn't kill them. Instead, it triggered their hibernation response, sending them into a deep sleep. Ship after ship went quiet as their crews succumbed. But humanity wasn't done yet. As the Imperial fleet struggled to deal with the biological attack, Admiral Walker launched the next phase of his plan. "Begin the Jupiter operation," he ordered. Around Jupiter, hidden shipyards activated. But these weren't building new ships. They were launching thousands of decoy probes, each one broadcasting Imperial identification codes. The Empire's remaining ships suddenly found their sensors overwhelmed with friendly signals. "I don't understand," a young Imperial officer said, watching the chaos. "Every history says humans are primitives. Where did they learn to do all this?" His answer came from an unexpected source. On every Imperial screen, a new message appeared, along with historical footage. It showed humans fighting each other through the centuries, adapting to every new weapon, finding ways around every defense. Admiral Walker's voice came through their speakers. "We learned because we had to. Humans have spent their entire history fighting. Not just enemies. We fought disease. We fought nature. We fought our own limitations. Every time something tried to kill us, we got stronger. Now it's your turn to learn." The footage showed more recent images. Humans practicing space combat in simulators, testing weapons in asteroid fields, preparing for this war long before the Empire arrived. "You thought our technology was primitive," Walker continued, "but you never asked why we chose to keep using it. Here's the truth. We could have built energy weapons like yours. We could have copied your shield designs, but we didn't need to, because we knew they wouldn't work against what we had planned." As if to prove his point, a swarm of small, dark objects emerged from Jupiter's atmosphere. Simple kinetic weapons, powered by the gas giant's gravity, accelerated to incredible speeds. The remaining Imperial ships had no defense against this ancient but lethal physics. The Imperial Admiral watched his fleet crumble under the assault of primitive weapons and tactics. He finally understood what the humans had tried to tell them from the start. Technology means nothing if you don't know how to use it. And humans, with their long history of warfare, knew how to use everything. Lord Rex stood before the Imperial High Command, his once pristine uniform now wrinkled and stained. The Grand Hall, usually filled with the proud voices of Empire's leaders, was eerily quiet. "The humans," he said, his voice shaking, "they're not just fighting our ships. They're fighting our minds." The High Command members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Reports from the Sol system had become increasingly disturbing. Not just tales of defeat, but stories that challenged everything the Empire believed about warfare. "Our soldiers are refusing to board ships," Rex continued. They'd heard stories about human tactics, about ships that disappeared into asteroid fields, never to return, about crews found frozen in space, their ships turned into tombs by simple hull breaches. On the main screen, footage played from the recent battles. Imperial ships, once proud symbols of power, now drifting helplessly after human attacks. Crews surrendering at the first sign of human vessels, remembering what happened to those who resisted. The humans. Rex's voice cracked. They sent us something new. Recordings, but not of their victories, of their defeats. The screen showed scenes from human history. Soldiers retreating from battles but learning from their losses. Armies being destroyed but coming back stronger. Civilizations falling but rising again, harder and more determined. They're showing our troops how humans handle defeat, one of the high command members said. But why? The answer came from an unexpected source. A young Imperial psychologist stepped forward, her research data displayed on a floating screen. Because, she explained, the Empire has never truly learned from defeat. We've won so many easy victories that our soldiers don't know how to handle failure. But humans have turned defeat into an art form. They learn. They adapt. They come back stronger. The high command chamber erupted in angry shouts. This was heresy. The Empire didn't need to learn from defeat. The Empire didn't fail. But the proof was undeniable. Half the Imperial fleet was lost or disabled. The other half was scattered across the Sol system, hunted by human ships that appeared and disappeared like ghosts. And now, the Empire's own soldiers were starting to ask dangerous questions. There's more, Rex said quietly. The room fell silent again. The humans sent us a peace offer. The terms appeared on the main screen. They were surprisingly simple. Earth and its solar system would remain independent. The Empire would withdraw. In exchange, humans would share their military knowledge, not their weapons, but their understanding of warfare. They're offering to teach us, a commander asked in disbelief. Us? The Empire that ruled 1,000 worlds. Yes, Rex replied, because they know something we don't, something we've forgotten in our 1,000 years of easy victories. The young psychologist's data showed the trend clearly. Empire soldiers were brave when winning, but they broke easily under pressure. They had never learned the lessons that humans had written in blood through their history. How to face defeat, how to adapt, how to turn weakness into strength. Suddenly, alarms blared through the Imperial capital. On the strategic display, human ships appeared at the edge of the system. Somehow, they had followed the retreating Imperial forces home. Not to attack, just to show they could. The message they broadcast was simple. Your soldiers are starting to understand why we warned you. The question is, will you learn from this defeat, or will you force us to teach you an even harder lesson? The High Command looked at each other in growing fear. For the first time in Imperial history, they faced an enemy that didn't just beat them. It wanted to teach them why they lost. And in the depths of space, more human ships were preparing to jump. Not to conquer, not to destroy, but to demonstrate why every Empire ship should have listened when humans told them to run. 1 month after the Empire's defeat, their representatives sat across from human leaders in a space station orbiting neutral territory. The station's design was deliberately simple. No weapons, no shields, just a place to talk. Admiral Walker sat at the head of the human delegation, facing the Empire's new commander. Lord Rex had been removed from his position, replaced by Admiral Venn, an officer who had survived the Battle of Jupiter. Before we begin, Venn said, his voice humble in a way no Imperial officer had ever been before, I must ask, you could have destroyed our fleet completely. Why didn't you? Walker smiled. Because destruction wasn't the point. The lesson was. On the large display between them, footage played from the recent conflict. But this time, it showed something different. Moments where humans had held back, instances where they could have struck killing blows but chose not to. We didn't want to destroy the Empire, Walker explained. We wanted you to understand something that humanity learned through thousands of years of fighting ourselves. The best victory is the one that teaches your enemy to become your ally." The Imperial representatives exchanged glances. This was not how conquest was supposed to work. Their entire history was built on complete victory or total defeat. This middle ground was unsettling. "Your terms," Ven said carefully. "They're not what we expected." Ambassador Miller stepped forward, displaying the peace conditions. They were surprisingly straightforward. Earth and its solar system would remain independent. A buffer zone would be established. And most surprisingly, human military advisors would be sent to the Empire. "Not to train your soldiers in our weapons," Miller clarified, seeing their confusion, "but to teach something more important: how to think about warfare differently, how to learn from defeat, how to adapt." The Imperial military attaché, still bearing scars from the biological weapon that had been turned against them, spoke up. "Our soldiers, they're already changing, asking questions, wanting to understand how humans think." "Exactly," Walker nodded. "That's the real victory. Not destroying your ships, but changing how your people think about war and peace." On the station's screens, new images appeared. Imperial ships being refitted with hybrid technology, combining their advanced systems with human innovations. Training exercises where Imperial soldiers learned to fight with simpler weapons, understanding that technology alone wasn't enough. "The galaxy is changing," Miller said. "The next threat might not be something either of us can handle alone, but together." He let the thought hang in the air. The Imperial representatives found themselves nodding. They had seen what humans could do with primitive technology. The idea of what they might achieve together was both frightening and exciting. "There's one more thing," Walker added. "A gift of sorts." He pressed a button, and a final recording played. It showed scenes from human history, but not of war this time. Instead, it showed how former enemies had become allies, how nations that once fought had learned to work together. "This is the most important lesson humanity learned," Walker explained. "The true strength of our species isn't just that we're good at fighting. It's that we're good at making peace afterward, at turning enemies into friends." The Imperial delegation watched in silence as the recording ended with a new message. "Next time someone warns you to run, remember, they might be trying to teach you something important." Ven stood, straightening his uniform. "On behalf of the Empire, we accept your terms. And thank you for showing us there's more to strength than conquest." As the peace treaty was signed, observers from other galactic civilizations watched in amazement. They had expected Earth to be just another conquered world. Instead, they saw something unprecedented: a primitive species teaching one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy a lesson about the true nature of warfare and peace. And in the depths of space, human ships and Imperial vessels began training together, preparing for whatever challenges the universe might bring next. Because now, when the next threat arose, they wouldn't face it as enemies who had fought each other, but as allies who had learned from each other. The warning to run had become an invitation to learn, grow, and stand together.